This is room 808.
John F. Kennedy stepped out of this room at the Hotel Texas in Fort Worth to begin the last day of his life. The 35th President of the United States attended a breakfast hosted by the Chamber of Commerce in the hotel, and then went out these doors and crossed the street to give a speech. It was the second of a planned 4-day visit through San Antonio, Houston, Fort Worth, Dallas, and Austin, with the weekend to be spent at Vice President Johnson's ranch. After his talk, the president was ready to go, but had to wait for wife Jackie's final preparations. And the entourage flew from Carswell Air Force Base, previously known for investigating the Roswell, New Mexico UFO incident, some 35 miles to Love Field in Dallas. Air Force One landed in what is now a private area beyond the control tower, where a 7-car motorcade formed up and left the airport just miles from downtown via Mockingbird Lane at 11:54 a.m. The weather hit a high of 71 degrees that sunny day. On its 10-mile route, the motorcade passed some 250,000 people, lining the streets of downtown en route to a scheduled luncheon at the Trade Mart. At 12:30, the motorcade made a 90-degree turn onto Elm Street, just 4 blocks until it would reach the safety of the triple underpass to the Stemmons Freeway and be able to accelerate to highway speeds. Suddenly, disaster. Most people say they heard 3 shots, the second or third of which caused the most damage to the president. The Warren Commission said Lee Harvey Oswald fired from a sniper's nest on the 6th floor of the Texas Book Depository, and indeed, Oswald was charged with the crime. Some people turned toward the grassy knoll, thinking shots were fired from there, and in one famous photo, some observers think they see faces hidden in this shrubbery. Some people also believe assassins were in the train yard behind the grassy knoll. Just 20 seconds or so after the final shots, the limousine started toward Parkland Hospital and its emergency room. Doctors worked on the president, even though one surgeon wrote they all knew he couldn't be saved. At 1 p.m., White House press assistant Malcolm Kilduff announced to a stunned world the president was dead. Meanwhile, after leaving downtown, Oswald went to the home where he and wife Marina had a room. From there, he next shows up at 10th and Patton Street, where he is believed to have killed Officer J.D. Tippit. More than a dozen people saw him leave the murder site in the Oak Cliff section and travel to the Texas Theater on the area's main street. A man saw him enter the theater without paying and told the cashier, who called police. Oswald was pulled struggling from a theater seat in this area and was struck by police as he resisted arrest. 10 minutes later, the president's body, after an argument over whether to have an autopsy in Texas, was taken to Love Field. After Lyndon Baines Johnson was sworn in as president by federal judge Sarah Hughes, who ironically was brought from the Trade Mart where she was to attend the luncheon, the 707 left Dallas for Andrews Air Force Base. After an autopsy at Bethesda Naval Hospital, the dead president's body was returned to the White House at 4:30 Saturday morning. Waiting, Mrs. Kennedy had it placed in the East Room to lie in repose for 24 hours. The next day, with some 250,000 people passing by it, the body lay in state at the Capitol for another 24 hours, including during the time when Jack Ruby shot and killed Oswald before a live television audience. After the funeral on Monday, which was designated as a national day of mourning, Mr. Kennedy's body was laid to rest in Arlington National Cemetery. The grave was aligned with the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument. It was lighted by a temporary and then permanent eternal flame. Thus ended a 72-hour period that started with what the Warren Commission said was a crime against a man and mankind.